March 3, 1952, 2:47 p.m. Solomon Katz watched through his shop window as the black Cadillac pulled up outside. His hands started sweating the moment he saw who stepped out. Albert Anastasia, the Lord High Executioner, the most feared man in New York's underworld, was walking into his jewelry shop on Delancey Street. Saul had been a diamond dealer and if you like this video, remember to leave a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. 23 years. He'd served millionaires, politicians, even Lucky Luciano once. But he'd never been this nervous. Anastasia wore an expensive gray suit that couldn't hide the violence in his movements. 2 bodyguards flanked him, their eyes scanning the street like wolves watching for prey. The door chimes rang. Anastasia walked straight to the display case, ignoring Saul's greeting. "I need something special," Anastasia said, his voice surprisingly soft. "My wife's birthday. 20 years married. She wants diamonds." Saul's mouth went dry. He knew who Anastasia was. Everyone in New York knew. Boss of Murder Incorporated. The man who'd ordered hundreds of killings. The enforcer for the Mangano crime family before he'd killed his own boss, Vincent Mangano, and taken over. "Of course, Mr. Anastasia, I have some beautiful pieces." Saul pulled out a velvet tray displaying his finest diamond necklaces, genuine stones, flawless clarity, worth $15,000 to $20,000 each. Anastasia barely glanced at them. "Bigger. My Elsa deserves the best." Saul's heart was pounding now. He had one piece that would satisfy Anastasia, a 12-carat diamond necklace with a platinum setting. Genuine stones, certified, worth $45,000, his most valuable piece. But Saul Katz had a problem, a gambling problem. He owed $38,000 to a bookmaker in Brooklyn, a man who'd already sent collectors to his apartment twice. The payments were due in 6 days. If he didn't pay, they'd break his hands, maybe worse. And sitting in his safe, hidden behind the genuine necklace, was another piece. A perfect replica, cubic zirconia stone set in platinum, created by a forger in the Diamond District who specialized in fooling insurance companies. It looked identical. Same weight, same cut, same sparkle under the shop lights. The only difference? It was worth maybe $2,000 in materials. Saul's brain was screaming at him. This was Albert Anastasia. You don't con Albert Anastasia. You don't even shortchange him on a pack of cigarettes. This was a man who'd personally strangled Arnold Schuster in broad daylight just because Schuster had identified bank robber Willie Sutton to police. Anastasia had killed Schuster for being a stool pigeon, even though it had nothing to do with him. But $45,000 would solve everything. Pay the bookmaker, save his hands, maybe even close the shop and move to Miami like he'd always dreamed. Saul made his decision. "I have exactly what you need," he said, his voice steadier than he felt. He went to the safe, hands shaking, and pulled out the fake necklace. He placed it on the velvet display pad under the bright examination. And if you like this video, remember to leave a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Light. On the keygo, cubic zirconia stones caught the light perfectly, throwing rainbow refractions across the walls. Anastasia leaned close, studying the piece. Saul held his breath. "How much?" Anastasia asked. $45,000, Saul said. "But for you, Mr. Anastasia, $40,000. An honor to serve your wife." Anastasia pulled out a roll of hundreds. He counted out $40,000 in cash, crisp bills that smelled like printer's ink. "If my Elsa doesn't love this," Anastasia said quietly, "I'll be back." It wasn't a threat. It was a promise. Saul packaged the necklace in a velvet box with his shop's seal. Anastasia took it, nodded once, and walked out. The Cadillac drove away. Saul locked the door, flipped the closed sign, and collapsed into his chair. His shirt was soaked with sweat. He'd just conned the most dangerous man in America. And he'd gotten away with it. March 5, 1952, 8:15 a.m. Albert Anastasia sat at the breakfast table in his Fort Lee, New Jersey mansion, reading the daily news. His wife Elsa came downstairs wearing her new necklace, beaming. "Albert, it's beautiful. The most beautiful thing I've ever owned." Anastasia smiled, rare for him, but genuine. 20 years with Elsa had been the only peaceful part of his violent life. She knew what he was, what he did, but she'd never judged him. "You deserve it," he said. "Wear it tonight, the Copacabana. I made reservations." That afternoon, Elsa took the necklace to her friend Rosa Gambino, Carlo Gambino's wife, to show it off. Rosa had a dinner party planned, and Elsa wanted everyone to see Albert's gift. Rosa examined the necklace, held it to the light, smiled politely. But something felt wrong. Rosa's father had been a jeweler in Palermo. She'd grown up around diamonds, learned to spot quality before she could read. "It's lovely," Rosa said carefully. "May I?" She pulled out a small jeweler's loop she kept in her vanity, a habit from childhood. She examined one of the stones closely. Her expression changed. "Elsa, darling, do. You have the certificate of authenticity?" "Certificate?" Elsa looked confused. "Albert just bought it 2 days ago from that dealer on Delancey Street." Rosa's face went pale. She looked at another stone, then another. "Elsa, I need to tell you something, and you need to stay calm." "What? What is it?" "These aren't diamonds, they're cubic zirconia. Very good fakes, but fakes." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Elsa's hand went to her throat. "That's not possible. Albert paid $40,000. I'm sure he did, but someone sold him fake stones." Rosa put the loop down carefully. "Elsa, you need to tell Albert, now, before he finds out another way." Elsa drove home in silence, the necklace feeling like a noose around her neck. She found Albert in his study, going over ledgers with his underboss, Frank Scalise. "Albert, I need to speak with you, alone." Scalise left. Albert looked at his wife's face and knew immediately something was wrong. "What happened?" Elsa's voice was shaking. "The necklace." Rosa looked at it. She says the stones are fake." The room went silent. Anastasia's face didn't change, but something in his eyes went dead and cold. "Say that again." "Rosa says they're not real diamonds. She used a loop. She's certain." Anastasia stood slowly. He walked to Elsa, took the necklace gently from her hands. He studied it under his desk lamp, though he knew nothing about gemstones. But he didn't need to. If Rosa Gambino said they were fake. And if you like this video, remember to leave a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. They were fake. Her father had been the best jeweler in Sicily. What was the dealer's name? The shop on Delancey, Katz's Fine Jewelry. Anastasia's voice was perfectly calm. "Thank you for telling me. Don't worry about this. I'll handle it." After Elsa left, Anastasia sat in his study for 20 minutes, not moving. Frank Scalise came back in. "Boss, someone just stole $40,000 from me," Anastasia said quietly. "Worse, they made me look like a fool in front of my wife." Scalise knew that tone. "Well, what do you want me to do?" "Find out everything about Solomon Katz, where he lives, where he eats, who he owes money to, everything. Then call Frankie Schatz and Tony Bender. Tell them to meet me at the Gem Club tonight at 10. We're going to send a message." By 6 p.m., Scalise had the full story. Solomon Katz, 47 years old, married, 2 daughters, lived above his shop, owed $38,000 to a bookmaker named Abe Roth in Brownsville, known to have a gambling problem, horses mostly. The shop had been in his family for 30 years. Anastasia listened to every detail, his face expressionless. "The bookmaker, Abe Roth, he works for who?" "Technically, the Lucchese family, but he's independent mostly." "Call him. Tell him Katz's debt is paid, $40,000. Tell him it's from me and that Katz is not to be touched." Scalise looked confused. "Boss, I don't understand. Why pay his debt?" Anastasia's smile was terrifying. "Because I don't want anyone else killing him. This is personal. And when I'm done, I want every dealer in New York to know exactly what happens when you try to con Albert Anastasia." March 5th, 1952, 10 p.m. The Gem Club on Mulberry Street was a private establishment, a place where made men discussed business away from civilian eyes. Albert Anastasia sat at a back table with Frank Scalise, Anthony Tony Bender Strallo, and Frankie Schatz Abandando, an expert in explosives who'd learned his trade in the Army Corps of Engineers during World War II. "Here's what I want," Anastasia said, lighting a cigar. "Katz's shop, I want it gone. Not burned, not robbed, demolished. I want that building blown off its foundation. I want every window on Delancey Street shattered. I want people to hear the explosion in Brooklyn." Frankie Schatz whistled low. "That's a lot of dynamite, boss. We're talking about a commercial building. 3 stories, brick construction, probably built in the 1920s. To take that off the foundation, we'd need at least 200 pounds of TNT, maybe more. Can you do it? I can do it, but it'll make noise. Police, fire department, probably the FBI will investigate. Anastasia leaned forward. Good. I want them to investigate. I want every jewelry dealer in New York reading about it in the papers. I want them to know what happens when you sell fake stones to Albert Anastasia. Tony Bender spoke up. Boss, have you considered just killing Katz? Simpler, quieter. Killing him is too easy, Anastasia said. His family has worked that shop for 3 decades. His father built it, his grandfather before that. It's his entire life. I want to erase it, make it like it never existed, and I want him to watch. The plan took shape over the next 2 hours. Frankie Schatz would procure military-grade TNT from a contact at the Brooklyn Navy Yard. They'd plant the charges in the basement of Katz's building, in the jewelry shop itself, and in the structural supports. The explosion would be timed for 3:00 a.m. when Delancey Street was empty. No civilian casualties, Anastasia insisted. This wasn't about innocent people. This was about respect and consequence. What about Katz? Scalise asked. Where will he be? We make sure he's watching, Anastasia said. Grab him at 2:30 a.m. Don't hurt him. Bring him to the corner of Delancey and Essex. Hold him there. Make him watch his life disappear. March 6, 1952, 11 p.m. Frankie Schatz and 2 associates entered the basement of 147 Delancey Street through an exterior access door. The lock was old, easy to pick. They carried 4 canvas bags, each containing 50 pounds of TNT stolen from a Navy demolition project. Inside the basement, Frankie worked methodically. He placed charges against the main support columns, using enough explosive to compromise the building's structural integrity. More charges went into the jewelry shop on the first floor, accessed through an interior stairway. The shop's safe, its display cases, its entire inventory would be vaporized. The detonation system. And if you like this video, remember to leave a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. It was simple but reliable. A timer mechanism attached to blasting caps. Set for 3:00 a.m., it gave them a 4-hour window to clear the area. Frankie was a professional. He'd blown up warehouses, cars, even a small bridge once. But this was different. This was pure destruction for the sake of demonstration. At 1:45 a.m., Frankie and his crew finished. They left through the same basement door, leaving no trace except the 200 pounds of TNT waiting silently in the darkness. Meanwhile, Frank Scalise and 2 soldiers parked outside Saul Katz's apartment above the shop. They waited, watching the dark windows. At 2:30 a.m., they picked the apartment door lock and entered quietly. Saul was asleep in his bedroom, his wife beside him. Scalise put a hand over Saul's mouth, waking him instantly. Don't scream. Don't fight. Come with us. We're not going to hurt you. Saul's eyes were wide with terror, but he nodded. They let him dress, then walked him downstairs and into a car. His wife never woke up. They drove 2 blocks to the corner of Delancey and Essex, where Albert Anastasia stood in the shadows, smoking a cigar. Saul saw him and his legs almost gave out. Mr. Anastasia, please, I can explain. You sold me fake diamonds, Anastasia said quietly. You thought I wouldn't find out. You thought you could take my money and I'd never know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I owe money. I was desperate. My wife. I don't care about your reasons. I care about respect. You disrespected me. You made me look like a fool. Anastasia checked his watch. 2:55 a.m. Watch your shop, Saul. Watch what happens when you con Albert Anastasia. At exactly 3:00 a.m., the TNT detonated. The explosion was heard across lower Manhattan. 200 pounds of TNT detonating simultaneously created a blast wave that shattered windows for 2 blocks in every direction. The 3-story building at 147 Delancey Street lifted off its foundation, the brick facade crumbling outward, the internal structure collapsing in on itself in a massive cloud of dust and debris. Saul Katz watched his entire life disappear in 3 seconds. The jewelry shop where his grandfather had started selling estate pieces in 1898, the apartment where he'd raised his daughters, the safe containing his remaining genuine inventory, the photographs on the walls, the mezuzah on the doorframe, everything gone. The building collapsed into a pile of rubble and twisted metal, smoke rising into the night sky. Car alarms shrieked, dogs barked, lights came on in every surrounding building. Within 5 minutes, fire trucks and police cars were screaming toward Delancey Street. Saul stood frozen, unable to speak, unable to even cry. His entire body was shaking. Anastasia stood beside him, watching the destruction with satisfaction. "Your wife and daughters are safe," he said calmly. "They're 3 blocks away, at your sister's apartment. My men moved them 2 hours ago. They think there was a gas leak. They don't know about this yet." He turned to look at Sewell directly. "But you're going to tell them. You're going to explain that you lost everything because you tried to cheat Albert Anastasia. You're going to carry that shame for the rest of your life." "Why didn't you just kill me?" Sewell whispered. "Because death is easy," Anastasia said. "Living with this is harder. Every day you'll remember what you lost. Every time you see your wife, your daughters, you'll know you destroyed their lives because you thought you were smarter than me." He dropped his cigar and crushed it under his shoe. "You're leaving New York tonight. My men will drive you to your sister's apartment. You'll collect your family, and you'll be gone by sunrise. I don't care where you go, but if I ever see you in this city again, I won't be this generous." Anastasia walked to his Cadillac. Before getting in, he turned back. "One more thing, Sewell. You're going to tell every jeweler you know what happened here. You're going. To make sure they understand. When Albert Anastasia buys something, he expects real merchandise. Anyone who forgets that can look at this pile of rubble and remember." The Cadillac drove away, leaving Sewell standing alone in front of the ruins of his life. By dawn, the story was everywhere. The newspapers called it a mysterious explosion on Delancey Street. The police investigated. The fire marshal investigated. The FBI investigated. They found evidence of TNT, clear signs of deliberate demolition. But nobody talked. Not the neighbors, not the other shop owners, not anyone who might have seen something. Because by noon on March 6th, every person in New York's underworld knew exactly what happened and why. Saul Katz had sold. And if you like this video, remember to leave a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Fake diamonds to Albert Anastasia, and Anastasia had erased him. The diamond dealers on 47th Street heard the story by breakfast. The jewelers in Brooklyn heard it by lunch. The fence operations in Queens heard it by dinner. The message was received, understood, and passed along. You don't con the mob. Ever. But especially, you never con Albert Anastasia. Saul kept his word. He took his family and left New York that morning, March 6, 1952. They moved to Cleveland, where Saul got a job as a watchmaker in a small repair shop. He never dealt in diamonds again. He never gambled again. He lived quietly, a broken man who'd learned the hardest lesson of his life. His daughters never knew the full story, only that their father had made a terrible mistake that cost them everything. Albert Anastasia went back to his mansion in Fort Lee and bought his wife a real diamond necklace, this time from Tiffany & Co., with full certification. Elsa wore it for the rest of her life. 5 years later, in October 1957, Anastasia himself would be murdered in the barbershop of the Park Sheraton Hotel, shot to death while getting a shave. But that's another story. The building at 147 Delancey Street was never rebuilt. The lot remained empty for decades, a vacant space between two buildings, a silent reminder of what happened that night. Old-timers in the neighborhood knew the story. They'd point to the empty lot and tell their grandchildren about the jeweler who tried to con the Lord High Executioner. The lesson lived on longer than the building. In the world Albert Anastasia ruled, respect wasn't negotiable. Your reputation was your life. And if you sold fake diamonds to the wrong man, your entire world could disappear in a 3-second explosion that echoed across the city. The rubble of 147 Delancey Street was cleared by March 15, 1952. But the story never was. It became legend, a cautionary tale told in jewelry shops and mob social clubs for generations. The night Albert Anastasia made an example so dramatic, so absolute, that nobody ever forgot it. Some said it was excessive, some said it was cruel. But everyone agreed on one thing. It was effective. From that night forward, when Albert Anastasia walked into a jewelry store, every dealer in New York made absolutely certain the stones were real.